Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's video. So today I am debuting the printable downloadable cutting guides. So we have two here that are going to be double page layouts. So that'll be cutting guide E and F. We have cutting guide B and D, which are our 6 single page layout tutorials, and then cutting guide A and C, which are our 4 single page layout. So I have used the 6 cutting guides since I started my channel, and so I kind of rotated between these 6, and so they are all going to be available. We are going to use cutting guide C today. So I'm just going to kind of go through the cutting guide itself and show you guys what's all going on. So we'll start off with what I call the paper planner page. So this page is going to be different in each cutting guide, and I kind of just give sort of a recipe of what we need for materials in this cutting guide. So in this case, we're going to talk about the paper itself. So at the top, and I do recommend that when you do print out the cutting guide, that you would print out multiple copies of this paper, so you use this over and over again for each new collection that you do. So I'm going to be filling in this paper when I do my paper selections before I start a cutting guide. So I'll fill in on those green lines the name of the paper that I'm using, or the name of the color of the cardstock that I'm using, along with the name of the collection of that paper pack or paper pad or whatever it is that you're using. Along the top, I'll put the collection name there. So this is just kind of a summary and a way to organize your thoughts onto paper, and this makes it really handy if you are doing your cutting guide over multiple evenings or nights, things like that. So it's a great place to remember where you left off or reference, what paper you ended up choosing. So moving on from there, we go into the actual cutting diagrams themselves. So we outline sort of in step 1 when we cut out our 10 by 10 squares. Step 2 is when we're cutting all of our cardstock. Step 3, we're going to be doing our background papers. And then we move into step 4, which is our accent papers and pattern papers. And then towards the back, we have like a layout overview. Okay, so we have the ruler lines in there too. So if you want to know where on the layout, the distances from each edge, things like that for the different layers. And then at the bottom, I have a list of all of the cut pieces that need to be on that layout, and in the order from back to front that you would want to layer those pieces, and just to kind of give a reference too. So each of these cutting guides is probably about 14 to 24 pages, I believe it is. So there is a lot of information packed into them. Another thing I like to do here is I also loaded these PDF downloadable files onto my iPad, and I just put them into iBooks and created a collection for them. And I like that I can just swipe through everything. I can zoom in on the rulers. I can zoom in on some of the fonts if I'm having a hard time reading them. And then they're always with me on the go. If I'm going somewhere like to a crop or something like that, they stay clean, they don't get wrecked. And it's just another way to reference my stuff. Another thing I recommend with the cutting guides is I did design them to be printed double-sided. So for instance, when we're working with the double pages here, when I print them double-sided, you end up with one half of the layout on one side and one half on the other, so that they look better side by side, and they're easier to see side by side. The cutting guides are 40% off for the rest of 2019. There is a link below in the description to where you can get them. It's at www.simplecutcreations.com/shop. So if you want more information, you can definitely check it out there. So today we're going to be working with the My Favorite Christmas collection from Echo Park. Along with the collection kit, we have the Coordinating Solids paper pack, which has 6 sheets of cardstock, the chipboard accents, the ephemera, And also we have the enamel dots and the puffy stickers. So this is my first time working with the Echo Park puffy stickers, and when I initially saw them, I was concerned that all the pieces were just way too small. Now I do have intentions of doing journaling pocket pages, with this collection. So this size of embellishments would look really, really perfect on some of those smaller cluster areas and some of those smaller sized areas. So they do have potential, and once I started working with the puffy stickers, what you'll see a little bit later, I actually think they'd make a great substitute for enamel dots. So I really love, I'm really starting to love the idea of the puffy stickers. Okay, so here we're just going to kind of go through the paper, and there is 12 sheets of patterned paper. They are all different. I think there is 3 papers, journaling card papers, so a 4x6, a 4x4, and a 3x4 journaling card paper in there. And of course it always includes the 12x12 sticker sheet as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove the cover and the sticker sheet so that we can kind of go through the paper. Now they have 2 sheets of each, and they are double-sided in their coordinating solids paper pack for cardstock. So I really like that neutral color, which has like that burgundy color on the back side. I don't think I intend to use that red color and the burgundy color together on the page. I don't really like how they look. I just don't like how they look together. So my intention would be to use like the craft colored background a little bit more instead of that burgundy color. So here I'm going to be using the planner page, which I do recommend using. Like, I would print out multiple copies of this page in the cutting guide and fill it in when you're starting to work with a collection. So I just wrote My Favorite Christmas under the collection name, and then I am going to use this as cardstock A and B because I need 2 colors or 2 pieces for that first color, and then I need 1 each of 2 different colors. So for cardstock C, I think I'm going to go with this green one here that says, I think it's green, and I think it's like a blackish color on the background. I think they call it gray, but I'm going to call it black. And then for my cardstock D, which is like our 3rd color, I'm going to go with that red, that lighter red kind of color. It's more of like a classic red. It's not really like a regal kind of color. It's just more of like a classic Christmas red. Okay, so we need 4 background page. We're going to be making 4 single page layouts. So we need 4 background pages and then 2 accent papers. Okay, so in this cutting guide, we use, I didn't notice that the cat was there while I was picking my papers. Otherwise, I probably would have got him to move because he's actually in the way of seeing the cardstock. So I apologize. He is pretty much watching me pick the paper the whole time, and I just didn't notice in real time. So I went ahead and picked that plaid paper as my first accent. My second accent paper, it really makes it easier if you don't pick a directional paper. So when I say directional, I mean if you put the page sideways or upside down, it would look the same. But if it's directional, it won't. If it's directional, when you put the page sideways like this or upside down, it would actually look upside down or it would look sideways, because in this case, the writing would be upside down or the writing would be sideways. So sometimes you can get that with different patterns too. So I went ahead and picked that flowery kind of paper with the craft colored background as my second accent paper, because I wanted the base of my other accent paper to be a different color than that black plaid. So I loved that writing papers with the craft background, so I put that as my background selection, along with that Santa paper that's kind of patterned with that larger pattern there. And then this Santa with the craft colored background, I liked it as well, and I decided to use that as my third background paper. And now I need one more background paper, and I think I wanted to incorporate this red color here with the snowflakes, so I did consider like replacing it as my accent paper, but I didn't like that my two accent papers would both be kind of a red focus. So I changed my mind on there, and then I was a little bit undecided with my final background paper, and I just ended up sticking with my original instinct there, which was to go ahead with that red snowflake paper. We have cutting diagrams in my tutorial videos, and I just kind of want to let you know how to read them. So there's the number in top in inches, and that's going to be the size that we're going to cut that cut piece into. And there's a number below it in a circle. So a lot of the times we're making 4 pages or 6 pages when we're using these cutting diagrams, and all these cut pieces can sort of get very disorganized. So that number inside of the circle there represents a pile that you're going to put that cut piece into. So for a 4-page tutorial, we're going to make 4 piles, and for a 6-page tutorial, we're going to make 6 piles. So the numbers are going to be either 1 through 4 or 1 through 6. So page 1 is going to have all the cut pieces that have a circle with the number 1 inside, and so on for the 4 or 6 pages. So now we're going to go ahead and take all pieces of our cardstock, and we are going to cut 1 inch in, 1 inch from the top, and 1 inch from the bottom. And we're going to make a straight line on all 4 sides of each of these pieces of cardstock. What we're basically doing is cutting a 10 by 10 inch square out of the center of this piece of cardstock. The border is going to be put into our pile, and the center, the 10 by 10 inch center, is going to be put to the side, and we're going to be cutting it with another cutting diagram as soon as we're done cutting out all of these squares. Now we're going to go ahead and cut the backgrounds for our pages. So we are going to be cutting the barcode strip off along with 1/2 inch, and then 1/2 inch on the other side. So we're going to be making an 11.5 inch by 11.5 inch square for all of our background papers. Okay, so off camera I went ahead and cut up all of my journaling cards. So we ended up with 4x6 sizes, 4x4 sizes, and 3x4 sizes. Now I will be using them potentially on these pages. I just decided to cut them up since I was going to be using them to make pocket pages in another video later. Probably not till after Christmas though. Okay, so I thought maybe I would put some green on this page, and then I tried out that Christmas tree and I just didn't like it, so I decided to stay with the craft and red look and not introduce green as much as I thought I was going to before. Even though that 3x3 photo is matted with the green cardstock, I just found that it was really subtle. Now this is my first time using the puffy stickers, and I thought I would hate them because they're so small. But I find that they have a lot of clarity to them, and they make a nicer edge than, let's say, this here. I'm just showing you here the difference between the same looking element in a puffy sticker versus a chipboard piece. It's a lot cleaner of an edge on those puffy stickers, and even though I thought I would hate them because they're small, but I actually think they would make a great replacement for the enamel dots. So because there's so many smaller pieces in there, you can use it to sort of finish off a cluster, or to, in this case, around that little black popped up area down at the bottom where it says Happy Holidays. I actually put 3 stars from the puffy stickers embellishment pack. I've put 3 stars in a triangle around that black element, and it worked out awesome. So I think next time I won't buy the enamel dots. I'm gonna buy the puffy stickers if they're available. So I do use the enamel dots a little bit on these 4 pages. So, but if you're sort of limited on what you want to buy, I would definitely buy the puffy stickers instead of the enamel dots. I could have definitely done well without the enamel dots, and I would say they're not necessary. Okay, so here I sort of decided that bottom area would be kind of one bigger, longer cluster, and then I wanted a small cluster on top of that 4x6 photo area, and then one on the other side of that between the other photos. And then here, I always like to do a banner underneath this 3x3 photo. I think that's kind of my go-to with this page, and I'm really used to it, and I think it would actually have to challenge myself not to do that at this point, because I just think it makes it so fast and so easy, and I like the way it turns out. So I did put this Merry banner here, and then what I like to do is put a different textured element on the left side of it and on the right side of it. So I popped up that Merry banner, which is just like a die cut piece, and then I layered behind it with that tree that's a different color, and it's chipboard, so it makes it a little bit different. And then the challenge, I guess, is to find another element to put on the left side underneath that 3x4 photo area. So here I just put that chipboard element that looks like a mistletoe, I think is what it's supposed to look like. And then I really liked that Christmas titling, because it was the same font as the Merry banner, but I didn't like the size of it. I didn't like how it looked on the page, and I just thought it took too big of an area. So then I ended up changing it out, and I didn't put anything down there. I just left it the way it was so that I could kind of bring the focus back up the page, and then so that my photos would be more of the focus, like it would kind of bring the focus back towards the pictures. And then I created another cluster area at the top of those photos, and then so it would look like the clusters and the embellishments were sort of framing in all of the pictures. So I mean, it depends on the elements, but I like to have at least 3 elements per cluster if I can, or if it, it's not really a rule, it's just kind of something that I like to try to do. But it just depends on the size and the shape of the embellishment. Sometimes you can get by with just one. It just depends. So here I layered behind that chipboard tree with just like a die cut circle that says ho ho ho, and then a puffy sticker that says peace, joy, and love. And then the cluster along the top there was just a big circle with a mistletoe and then a mug with a candy cane coming out of it. And then I popped up a red sticker that says peace, love, and joy. Okay, so for this page here, I wanted a big element underneath this 4x4 photo. And so I removed that 3x3 photo and replaced it with a bigger die cut piece. So this Santa is huge and I wanted to pop him up. So I actually cut up some of the chipboard from our chipboard accents that would have been wasted. And I just used that to pop it up instead of using foam squares. And with this cluster, it just wasn't working out the way I wanted to. I liked that it said the North Pole delivery, but I didn't like that it was like a craft color because it blended in too much with that pattern paper. And I was trying to layer it on top of an element that brought it up and elevated it, but it just wasn't going to work out. So I found this 4x4 journaling card that says, Santa, I have been, and then it has a check mark or checkbox for naughty or nice. And what I loved about it was that it was a little bit smaller of an element than the North Pole one, but most of all, what I liked about it was that it was a different color. So it wasn't that craft. So this green color is going to stand out really nicely on top of that accent paper. Okay? And I thought it would still work with the Santa and it would still work with the reindeer. So I think that's definitely an improvement over the last element. So I think it was a positive change. So then at the top here, I really wanted to use this Merry Christmas sticker, but I wanted to layer it in front of this 3x4 journaling card. And I don't really want to see the candy cane there, so I tucked it in underneath that 4x4 photo area enough that this titling that says Merry Christmas will end up covering it. Okay, so that 3x4 journaling card is laying flat on the page. I adhered it directly, and then that Merry Christmas is popped up with foam squares. This Joy vertical sticker is it's not a sticker, it's a die cut piece. I popped it up as well, and I layered behind it with those two leaves that are chipboard. And then up here at the Merry Christmas, I go back to the Merry Christmas and I do the same thing. So I pop up, I tuck in underneath this Merry Christmas sign those leaves, but then I pop up the top of the leaves. Okay, so it does look, they are raised, but they also look like they go behind that element. Okay, I wanted to add this red sticker here that says December, and then my intention is to be able to write the date inside that white area there. Okay, and here I'm just adding on a few extra pieces to make that cluster just a little bit bigger at the bottom. And then at the top as well, I put that ho 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 white sticker, or black sticker, sorry. And then I felt like it needed another black element on the other side of the Merry Christmas as well. Okay, so this joy, I didn't want to put the word joy twice in one area, so I ended up using that joy sticker from the sticker sheet up where it says up by Merry Christmas, and I felt like that black element and the other round element at the top sort of tied in that collection really nicely at the top. And here I do use the enamel dots a little bit, but it's not necessary. I would actually recommend not buying them because I don't think they're necessary, and you could easily replace what I did do with enamel dots with some of the tiny little stars or elements from the puffy stickers. Now this layout here, normally I have no trouble with, but I just didn't like how the Noel titling was working out at the beginning, and I just didn't know what I was going to do. So I ended up changing this layout up. So I moved the photo areas around, and I decided to change it up. So here I'm kind of just cycling through all of my journaling cards. I'm just trying to see what's available, try and see what's inspiring, and I kind of try out a few different things. Now normally I actually remove this kind of footage, so I don't show it, but I want to show you guys sort of what I do when, you know, things don't necessarily go right or things don't immediately pop up to me. So I'm just kind of going through, picking out, I'm just kind of like looking at different shapes, and this is where like it really does help to kind of just put things on the page and kind of like move things around, and you kind of just find a new balance to the page. So there, I really like the idea of the 3x3 photo area being on top of that 4x4 journaling element card, but I wanted it to be crooked. I didn't want it to line up, but then it didn't look right with that one being crooked and everything else being so straight. So then I decided to make all of the rest of the elements crooked. So my 3x3 photo areas and my 3x4 photo area now are all sort of offset. Okay, and then what I did is I took that sort of scalloped banner or scalloped frame there, and I put a spare piece of craft cardstock behind it, and then I layered all of that behind the Noel titling, and then I popped up the Noel title itself off of that. So then I felt like the Noel title now had a new place that sort of anchored it really nicely, and I still felt like this page gave me a nice opportunity to make some clusters and embellishments like that. So usually when I introduce like a journaling card to a page like this, I will use it sort of as a base and then use my embellishments around that journaling card. So I kind of do the same thing with that Be Merry 4x4 journaling card. Now I'm going to cluster around that. And I love this this little white element that said I love Christmas. It is actually kind of like it has like a darker strip on the top, but I tucked that in underneath the 4x6 photo area because I didn't really want to utilize that part of it. And then I kind of just looked at the embellishments I had left on my sticker sheet and ruffling through my die cuts, and I just filled in all of the gaps, I guess you could say, between all the photos with embellishments that were sort of an appropriate size for that gap area. And that's how I ended up putting in that flower and that big Christmas tree and that Santa on the bike. And then around that Be Merry 4x4 journaling area, I decided to put ornaments. And then sort of at the, I kind of wanted to put this third ornament, but I felt like it was just hanging out in the middle of nowhere. So I decided not to put it up there. And then I wanted to find some kind of strip titling. So I went with this one that's sort of subtle. It says Merry Christmas, but I went with the green color because it sort of blended in with that cardstock in the background, and I used some puffy stickers just to kind of finish that one off. And at the bottom, I thought that flower needed a little bit more than just the ornament beside it, so I went ahead and layered sort of like this little scalloped title or quote little area. It says it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, and I just layered that behind. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's tutorial. Next week we're going to be working with another Christmas collection, and that's going to be it for 2019 because my kids are going to be starting Christmas holidays, so I'm going to take 2 weeks off with them, and then we will start back in the new year. In the new year I'll probably do another 1 or 2 Christmas collections, and then we're going to move on to something else. And so thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and we will see you next Friday with a new video, and have a great weekend.